it's me, Laurel Ann, and I am here today to cause drama and talk about my least favorite books of 2020. Normally in my wrap-ups, I try really hard to say something positive about every book I read, even if I don't like it. But you know what? That's not what this video is for. We are here to rant, bad vibes only. If that doesn't sound like your type of video, maybe don't watch it. These are in no particular order, by the way. It's just kind of in the order in which I feel like talking about them. I'm going to start with one that shouldn't come as a surprise to any of you. The Cabin at the End of the World by Paul Tremblay. I still don't know how to pronounce it. Sorry. This is a horror book about some people, like a little family. They're on vacation, and all of a sudden this group of people show up and they say, if you don't sacrifice one of your family members, you, collective you, family, then the world will end. We've all had this vision. We didn't know each other before, but we had this vision. Now we're together. We're here to tell you that fact. So this book, honestly, it just did absolutely nothing for me. I didn't think it was scary. It made me feel very bad. But the big thing here was the pacing. I just felt like pretty much nothing happened for like 80% of the book. It was, I think, a short story with just a lot of extra back and forth dialogue stuffed in order to make it into a novel. Honestly, this brain, I'm not drunk already. This book just did not stay in my brain very long. I can't even remember enough about it to fully complain about it. I don't know why I even completed this book. I think I just had consistent hope that something interesting was going to happen, and it just didn't. And then mild spoilers, I guess, for The Cabin at the End of the World. The ending is ambiguous, and even though I like ambiguous endings, I just don't think it worked for this because the whole conflict hinges on this: is the world going to end or isn't it? And after nothing happening for as long as nothing happened, the fact that nothing happens in the end was just, it just all felt like an exercise in futility. Okay, next we've got Black Eyed Susans by Julia Haeberlin, which, on the opposite end of the spectrum, will not leave me alone. I just keep thinking about this damn book and why it was just so mind-boggling in its badness. This is about a woman who was the lone survivor of a serial killer when she was a teenager. And now, I think it's about 20 years later, the man who was convicted of the crime is set to be executed, and she, who has over the last 20 years thought that they probably got the wrong guy, just finally decides to try and help exonerate this dude. Right off the bat, that just caused an issue for me. It's one thing if you are writing an unlikable protagonist. I think this can work really well for me especially, and especially in thrillers. I mean, like, we love an Amy Dunn, right? But this is not one of those cases. You're definitely supposed to feel for her. You're supposed to root for her. She's got nothing else wrong with her. She's a nice lady. Except that she let a guy rot on death row for 20 fucking years. And she really doesn't give a good reason for this. Her rationale is that she has a teenage daughter, and she just doesn't want to put media attention on her family because it will be disruptive for her daughter, which, okay, may be fair if the life of a man wasn't on the line, but also she has reason to believe that the actual killer is still out there and playing games to taunt her. So in an effort to protect her daughter from media scrutiny, she's putting her life in danger from a legit serial killer that she believes is out there and other women. It just, the writing was absolutely ridiculous. It was so over the top in an effort to like elevate itself from kind of the you know, mass market nature of the thriller genre, but it was just so bad. There were so many sentences where I was like, you really You really chose those words to put together? You really want to put that image in my head? Okay. The teenage daughter, such a little creep, not in a deliberate way. She was supposed to just be like the perfect daughter, but that's the problem. Perfect teenagers are a big no for me. And largely just in this whole plot, I felt nothing. I didn't care about the romance. I didn't care about the characters. I didn't care about the plot. The other thing is that the person who is in prison for the crime is a black man. I really think that Haeberlin was trying to make some commentary on the American justice system and how it is unfair to black men, which is true. But she just did it in the most unsubtle and unnuanced way. The reason the justice system put this guy in jail was because there was eyewitness testimony that said it was him. So this just worked for me on 0 levels. I read this because a booktuber who I admire spoke very glowingly of it. And I got halfway through this and I had to go back and watch that video again to make sure I'd found the right book. And I had. That person was just very wrong. I'm gonna put another log on that fire. Okay, which book am I gonna throw on the fire next? Let's go with The Covent Garden Ladies by Hallie Rubenhold. This is nonfiction about the sex trade in the late 1700s in London. My issue with this is just that I found it quite misogynistic. It, first of all, focuses primarily on men, which when I'm reading a book called The Covent Garden Ladies about the sex industry, I thought it would be about the ladies. And then the women that it does look at, specifically one woman who gets quite a lot of page time, she's just portrayed completely unsympathetically. The only sympathetic character is a dude who was a writer who just kind of got caught up in this world. I just felt like there was a lot more sympathy afforded to him than any of the women, who were often referred to as harlots in the text, not just in quotes. And that would be disappointing at the best of times, but I was particularly let down considering that it was coming from Hallie Rubenhold, who, at least in my mind, is one of the most prominent players in this sort of like feminist history space in nonfiction. Like I said in my wrap up, this came out in 2005. It really was a different time, but I don't know. I'm still mad about it. Okay, so let's go ahead and get a little spicy and talk about The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. Now, if I'm being honest, it's totally unfair of me to have even put this list on this book. No, it is completely unfair of me to have put this book on this list. Because I actually, pretty much liked it, but just had some gripes. And under normal circumstances, I would have finished it and thought that was fine and moved on with my life. But because this book has just been so popular and so well reviewed, I just keep being reminded of it. And then the things that I didn't like have sort of... He got so scared. The things that I didn't like about it have just become so prominent in my mind, and they've just sort of risen to the top and obscured all the things that I actually did like. So Addie LaRue, it's about a woman who, 300 years ago, made a deal with the devil that she will live as long as she wants, but nobody can ever remember her. And she lives like that until a guy does remember her. My biggest issue with this book, they're twofold. So one was Addie LaRue's freckles. By the end of the book, if I had had to hear one more character tell Addie LaRue that her 7 freckles looked like a constellation of stars, I was going to burn the book. This is not a thing that anybody has ever said. If you say it in the text of your book, fine. You can even repeat it a couple of times if you really want. I don't think I would encourage it, but if you want, go for it. But the fact that it came in dialogue from so many different characters, it just made no sense. I was like, this is not a cliche that I'm missing out on, right? this is something that she made up, that all these characters are just independently observing of this person. No, this is not a thing. I know, I shouldn't be this angry about this, but I am. I don't know how other people haven't noticed this. And then the other thing is just Addie LaRue herself. There's nothing really wrong with her. She's not a bad person or anything, but there's also just nothing really right either. She's just a bit of an empty vessel, if you will. She wants to live her life, she wants to travel, she wants to see the world. Everyone who meets her is instantly captivated by her, and in my opinion, Addie LaRue was not amazing enough to justify this. Also, pretty sus that in like 300 years of running around the earth, she like never encountered a person of color. I just keep thinking about all the cool and exciting things you could do with a character who lives forever and has no consequences. And Addie LaRue just runs around having sex with artists. I don't get this book. Alright, and the last book I'm going to talk about, I lose at least 3 subscribers every time I mention this, so if that's you, goodbye. It was nice having you. But it's The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. Now, this book is kind of unique on this list in that I think it actually is very successful at what it set out to do. I think it's a very immersive, sensory reading experience. However, for my taste, a book should either have plot or character or themes. It needs at least one, preferably more. But this book had none of them. This book is a series of descriptions of circus tents. Would I like to visit this circus? Absolutely. Do I want to read 500 pages about this circus where nothing much happens and none of the characters have any personality or drive whatsoever? Not so much. That's really all I've got to say on that one. And those are all the books. If you like any of these books, that's great. I still respect you. And I hope you can find it within yourself to continue respecting me. I hope you guys are all doing great. And sometime in the future, I'll have something more positive, which is my best books of 2020. If you made it to the end of this video and would like to comment to help me be enjoyed by the algorithm, feel free to comment the sweating cat. Bye! That is formalized. Formalized? Is that a word? Formalized. Why you look at me like this?